We played the Ljubljana.
Yes, and
Many years ago. We were young men. We slept in. It was at like a squat. We slept in a room that they locked us in.
Yeah, so you had to pee. You had to pee in the room we were in.
They locked you in a room.
They locked us in a room.
Were you not slightly worried about the fact they were locking you?
Oh,
in
it seems super weird.
Yeah, we were extremely worried.
And you still think that?
We were also sleeping on
we were locked in.
old,
so you know,
old barracks. We were like sleeping on with like.
Yeah, it's an old.
Is that
old bedrolls would be a
Yeah.
very nice way to put it. At one point, I went out to use the restroom.
But when you locked in, did you have to knock or something?
No, this was before we got locked in.
We just got locked into sleep, and then they came in the morning and unlocked it and let us out. No joke.
That's true. But so while we were still free, before we got locked into sleep, I went out to use the restroom, and I'm like, "Where's the restroom?" Because like, "Oh, it's downstairs, out the door. You see, you can't miss, you know." And then I went out there, and it's a wooden outhouse. It's like it's dark, and I like walk out to the outhouse, and I open the door, and there's just human poos just all around the hole in the outhouse. I'm like, well, I'm not using the restroom in here, that's for sure. And so I like walk back out, and it's like a time-sensitive light snapped on, and all of a sudden I'm like outside the outhouse, and there's just human poos everywhere, like on the ground. It's just syringes, because we were right by a methadone clinic, which is something that we hadn't known.
You didn't know.
But the poo and the needles clued us in that it was something was happening. And you know they say that because when you do a lot of heroin, you can't shit. Sometimes you go like 8 weeks without shitting, sometimes like 6 months without shitting if you're like really into heroin. So I think these were the poos of a bunch of people who had gotten off heroin and were just like, they're just like, you know what, freedom, bliss, shitting in this yard in Slovenia. So those were freedom poos.
So you got locked in a place and everyone pooed everywhere because they just got off the heroin.
It might not be the kind of. I suppose it's not like a tour story.
That's not really a great.
Or is the time that we drove through a swarm of bees?
That was also really good.
You drove through a swarm of bees.
It sounded like we were going through a tunnel, and then there was like 2 feet of open air where there was a fucking torrential downpour, and then back into another tunnel, and we were just laying in the back, and it was just like all over the van, and we were like, what the fuck was that? And Neil's driving, and he's like, it's bees! And we're like, what? He's like, it's bees! And there was bees, and it looked like somebody smeared honey all over our entire windshield because all the bees died. We just drove through this swarm, and they all died. Yeah.
Or there was a time that we did karaoke in Dana Point, California, with
the keyboard player from Iron Butterfly. That was awesome too.
That's pretty memorable.
There was a time when Sean Wisner, sound guy, tried to pass off a counterfeit £5 note at a McDonald's in London, and the cops came.
You don't take shit like that.
And our tour manager. He was getting like confronted by the security guards because they're like, okay, corral these guys. And he just goes, sits down, starts eating, and he's this old German guy. And this dude comes over, he's like, sir, you gotta go back with the other people. And he goes, what, you think your dick is fucking big? I'll fucking eat your face. And he's a really scary dude. And so they just fucking walked away. They're like, oh yeah, I don't get paid enough being a security guard at McDonald's to deal with this crazy motherfucker. But the great part about this story is that Wisner, the guy who was being detained, ended up meeting a girl in line at the McDonald's and just going home and fucking her before the cops came, and then she did his laundry. Which, I mean, if you can imagine the fucking thought process in this girl's mind, she's like, here I am, 3 in the morning at McDonald's. This foreign guy that's about to go to prison is probably a pretty safe person to bring home and fuck at my house. It turns out that Sean Wisner's a great guy, so she made the right choice.
Yes.
I'm happy you're totally name checking him throughout this whole interview. Also, there was the time we met Shaquille O'Neal.
That was great.
Which is
you met
awesome.
Shaquille? How?
We're just on the street in Orlando at 2 in the morning. He's Shaquille O'Neal. We're like, wow. We're looking across the street that guy's huge. And it's like, oh shit, that guy's really huge. Oh shit, that's Shaquille O'Neal. And then we're all, as I'm sure every drunk guy on the street in Orlando that night is like, oh my god, there's Shaquille O'Neal, I gotta go shake his hand.
Was he happy that you wanted to
He was actually super cool and putting my hand into his hand was like putting a.
It was like this.
Yeah.
It was like
his
hi,
hands.
Mr. O'Neill.
His hands
Nice
were
to
like
meet you.
3 times the size of mine, and he was actually super cool. Hey, fellas.
Yeah, he wasn't like cool. It was like he couldn't have gave 2 shits, but he definitely wasn't like put out in any way. It was like the way that like his whole life is like a bunch of like drunk
People
white guys
going,
coming up to him and be like, "Hey, Shaq, what's up, big guy? How's it going?" And so he's just like, "Yeah, how's it going? Good to see you." Right now, like his security's right there. He's like, "No, don't worry about these guys. They're cool. All right, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to meet you too. Okay, cool to meet you. Yeah, you guys cool? All right, having a good night? All right, great." You know, like it was. I wouldn't say he was stoked, but he definitely could have been a way bigger dick, and we still would have been like, "Oh, that was pretty cool."
So that's what it's like to be in the Lawrence Center.
Yeah, it's really.
That's what it's like. Poo,
really
heroin, Shaquille O'Neal, bees.
Bees. I don't believe the bees who are
locked
made it
into
into the
rooms.
best things that ever happened to us on tour. Alright, Chris.
That's not the best. That's not the best. That's not the question.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
The
All
best
right.
It
things
was.
that ever
I
happened
didn't
to
say
us
that
on
tour
tour.
stories. I just said tour stories.
Yeah, I shook little Richard's hand because Chris told me to. That was.
And then he tried to sell him the Bible.
He
You tried to sell him a
He
Bible.
didn't try to sell me the Bible. He gave me a book about how to interpret the Bible called Navigating
And
the
that
Storm.
clearly saved you a lot.
And I was like, well, I'd really like to shake your hand. And then he gave me another one. He goes, give these to your friends over there, too. So, technically, one of my Navigating Storm copies belongs to you.